Wyndham Clark is holding a second U.S. Open trophy, and half of golf believes it belongs to someone else. Brent Henley uploads a clip, 4.4 million views. NUCLR Golf posts the drop on 17. The replies turn ugly fast. He stood at 7 under with the field buried behind him when it happened. The USGA issues one ruling, then goes quiet. That quiet is the real story. Everyone wants this footage to be simple evidence of cheating, caught in plain daylight. It isn't, and pretending otherwise is how a governing body escapes the harder question. This is now the fourth time the same name has landed in a rules storm, and the fourth time the people in charge decided nothing needed fixing. Fans aren't just angry at one golfer anymore. They're demanding an investigation into the system around him, some openly asking whether the USGA would cover up a problem inside its own championship, while the biggest stars on the PGA Tour say nothing at all. Whatever you believed about this so-called crisis when you clicked, the next 10 minutes will move you off it. Do two things first. Subscribe and give me your honest first reaction below, because I genuinely want to know. Now let's talk about what really happened. Start with the tape everyone thinks they've seen. Brent Henley didn't post an essay or a theory. He posted raw footage and a question. And questions travel further than accusations because every viewer gets to finish the sentence themselves. That's what made this clip different from the usual outrage cycle. It recruited the audience as jurors instead of lecturing them. Watch it at full speed and your eyes tell you a story. Wyndham Clark stands in fescue so thick it could hide a shoe, takes a practice swing beside his ball, walks around, takes another from the opposite side, then steps behind the ball and presses the grass down with his hand before playing his shot. 4 million people watched that sequence inside a few days, and a huge chunk of them decided they had just witnessed a man steal a national championship in broad daylight 24 hours after he lifted the trophy. Now slow it down, because the slowed version is where this gets uncomfortable for the mob. The practice swings happen near the lie, not on it. The club never touches the grass around the ball itself, which is the exact detail Henley pointed out when he wrote that Clark never touches the grass on this mysterious swing. He called it mysterious, said he'd never seen another player rehearse that way, and told the internet to be the judge. But testing how fescue grabs a club head before you commit to a shot is something coaches teach 12-year-olds, and doing it on both sides of a brutal lie is caution, not conspiracy. The padding motion behind the ball looks damning in a vertical phone clip, yet the rules draw the line at improving your lie, your stance, or your line of play, and improving the area behind a ball you're about to strike from the side is a stretch even the angriest replay can't close. No official flagged it live, no playing partner called for a review, no microphone caught a single complaint inside the ropes. The man filming golf for a living asked whether rules were bent, and the honest answer, frame by frame, is that nobody has produced the frame where they break. That should have ended it. It didn't, because the tape landed on soil that was already burning. One day earlier, on Saturday afternoon, Clark had stood on the 17th tee at 7 under with the tournament in his pocket and yanked his ball 100 yards left into the junk. It settled next to a television camera stand, the kind of oversized scaffolding that has decided more major championship moments than fans realize. He called for a ruling, and here is where the fan base split in half. An official granted him relief because the structure blocked his swing, which is written plainly into the rule book. A player gets a free drop from an immovable obstruction, the same relief a weekend hacker gets from a cart path at a municipal course. Clark cleared away loose grass, which the rules also permit, dropped once, watched the ball roll back toward the stand, dropped again, watched it roll again, and was then required by procedure to place it by hand. He chipped on from that placement and saved par like nothing had happened. Fans watching at home saw a leader hit a terrible shot and walk away with a perfect lie. And the anger didn't aim at Clark first. It aimed at the officials. The complaint flooding social media that night wasn't that he cheated. It was that the people running the championship had handed him a gift. That moving grass before a drop shouldn't produce a lie that clean, that the whole sequence felt engineered for television convenience. New CLR's post asking whether it was fair pulled thousands of replies within hours, and buried inside them sat the seed of everything that followed. If the ruling body benefits when its leader survives the weekend, why would it ever rule against him? Nobody could point to a broken rule, so they pointed at the people holding the rule book instead. Understand the scene this all played out in, because context is doing half the work here. Shinnecock that week wasn't a golf course, it was a courtroom with grandstands. Scottie Scheffler turned 30 on Sunday, needed this one trophy to complete the career Grand Slam, and had 20,000 people willing him toward history. Every neutral in New York had adopted him by Thursday. The gallery cheered when Clark's ball ran hot, groaned when his putts dropped, urged his chip on 13 to keep rolling, and got loud enough that security walked several fans off the property in the middle of the final round. Officials removing hecklers to protect the leader is standard practice at every major on Earth, but optics don't care about standard practice. To a suspicious audience, the same organization had now smoothed his lie on Saturday and silenced his critics on Sunday. Two routine decisions stacked one on top of the other started to look like a posture, and a posture, unlike a ruling, can't be appealed. And Clark, true to everything we know about him, made zero effort to charm his way out of it. He admitted afterward that the hostility wasn't a complete shock, talked about hearing the abuse and converting it into fuel, about smiling internally when a made putt shut a grandstand up. A different champion would have thanked New York for the energy, praised Scheffler, and floated away on a wave of humility. This one essentially told the crowd their hatred fed him, which is the most Wyndham Clark sentence imaginable, and the reason it matters is coming. Meanwhile, the man they came to crown finished 4 shots back at even par without ever mounting the Sunday charge the crowd kept waiting for, and Sam Burns, not Scheffler, quietly became the story of the final hour. The villain won, the hero faded, and the audience was left holding a script with no satisfying ending. So they wrote their own. So the tape shows no violation, the drop followed the book, and the ejections were procedure. Case closed, right? Here's the problem, and it's the reason this fire won't go out. A verdict is only as strong as the court that delivers it, and Wyndham Clark has now been dragged in front of this particular court 4 times in 3 years, and 4 times he has walked out untouched. And not once has anyone in charge explained the reasoning in a way ordinary fans could follow. That's not proof of a cover-up. It's something almost as corrosive, a pattern with no narrator. Rewind 12 months at a time and watch it stack up. Spring of 2025, Bay Hill, Clark's tee-ball on the 3rd hole bounces in the fairway and settles into a pitch mark. He takes free relief for an embedded ball, plays on, makes his par. On the broadcast, the tour's own rules director announces that the ball rolled into somebody else's mark, which would mean the drop was improper and a penalty was coming. 6 holes later, the same official returns to the air to say camera and ShotLink analysis showed it was Clark's own mark. After all, no penalty, nothing to see. The right answer probably won out, but picture how that afternoon felt from a couch. The sports referee declared him guilty and then innocent within 2 hours on live television, using technology no viewer could inspect. Clark himself only learned about the entire controversy when officials met him at the scoring tent, and he asked fairly how a player standing 300 yards away is supposed to know which dent in the earth his ball found. He said the rules seemed unfair, and for once the internet skeptics and the accused agreed on something. A year before that same tournament, far worse look. Thick, rough right of the fairway on 18, Clark tied for the lead, and he presses his iron into the grass behind the ball with enough force that the ball visibly moves. Cameras caught everything in high definition. Brad Faxon said on the broadcast that it certainly didn't look like just the weight of the club. Luke Donald said he needed to be more careful. Brandel Chambly went furthest of all, replaying the footage on Golf Channel and saying the ball clearly moved, the club clearly wasn't grounded lightly, and a penalty was deserved. Officials reviewed everything with Clark and Scottie Scheffler, his playing partner that day, and ruled the ball had merely oscillated back to its original spot, which carries no penalty under the rules. Clark's defense was that the zoomed footage made it look worse than it was. that he had no ill intent, that he wasn't cheating or trying to improve anything, and that even Scheffler saw nothing wrong. He finished second that week, and the C word followed him out of the property. And before all of that, during the 2023 U.S. Open win that launched his major career, a grainy greenside clip had already convinced a corner of the internet that his very first trophy was tainted, that a penalty was missed, that the whole thing started crooked. 4 storms, 4 clearances, 0 detailed public explanations. Now add the character underneath, because the human being is the reason fans find guilt so easy to believe. This is a man who missed the cut at Oakmont in 2025 and smashed a set of 121-year-old lockers in frustration, earning himself a ban from one of American golf's cathedrals and spending the next year apologizing his way back toward respectability. He said he felt terrible. He said he hoped to play there again someday. Weeks before the lockers, he had thrown his driver and destroyed a tee sign at the PGA Championship, then joked later that it was a pretty good throw, while suggesting the punishment felt intentionally harsh. Clark's core wiring is volcanic. He breaks things when the game humiliates him. So when a clip surfaces suggesting he might bend things to avoid being humiliated, the public doesn't need convincing. The temper makes the cheating feel plausible, even where the evidence never quite arrives. People aren't really judging a practice swing. They're judging a personality, and the personality keeps handing them ammunition. Which brings us to the silence of the stars, the part of this story everyone is misreading. Fans keep asking why no big name has echoed Henley, why the men who shared that fairway won't say a single word, why players with opinions about slow play and prize money and tour politics suddenly have nothing to offer. The assumption is fear, or worse, complicity. The likelier truth is quieter and far more inconvenient. Watch any tour professional in punishing rough this season, and you will see versions of that same rehearsal swing, that same testing of the grass, that same careful choreography around a terrible lie. Plenty of fans defended the footage in Henley's replies for exactly this reason, arguing that every golfer alive rehearses in deep grass and that people were simply hunting for new reasons to hate a champion they already disliked. A star who points at Clark's practice swing is pointing at his own Tuesday routine, and every locker room on tour knows it. Their silence isn't a shield around one man, it's self-preservation for 100. And that's the reveal this whole saga has been building toward. There is no cover-up, because there is nothing underneath to cover. What there is a governing structure that clears players in private, explains nothing in public, and punishes inconsistently enough that nobody can predict the next ruling. This very season, Joaquin Niemann was docked 2 shots for tossing a club, while Jon Rahm drop-kicked a driver down a fairway without consequence, and nobody in authority has ever explained where the line sits. Clark himself has complained that the rules need to be more user-friendly, and for once the accused and his accusers actually want the same thing. A rulebook ordinary people can trust with their own eyes, and officials willing to show their work. The crisis in the title is real. It just lives in the institution, not in one man's practice swing, and that's a harder villain to boo. Sunday almost wrote the perfect ending for the mob anyway. The 6-shot cushion melted in the wind. Clark 3-putted 17 and stood on the final tee clinging to a single stroke, while Burns, playing ahead, poured in birdies and then left 2 more hanging on the edge over the last 2 holes, dropping to his knees when the tying putt at 18 slid past. Clark 2-putted from 52 feet with a hostile crowd openly begging him to fail, and became a 2-time U.S. Open champion by the width of a heartbeat. Only 3 players broke par all week. If cheating carried him, it abandoned him for 4 straight hours on Sunday, and he survived on nerve alone. That's the one fact the angriest replay can't erase. So here's where I leave it with you. The footage shows a rehearsal, not a crime. The drop was legal, the pattern is genuinely troubling, and the silence at the top is the loudest evidence that the problem runs bigger than Wyndham Clark. Guilty man protected, or innocent man convicted by his own temper? Drop your verdict in the comments, because this channel reads every single one. And if you want the next investigation the moment it breaks, hit subscribe and turn on the bell, because in this sport, the next tape is never far away.